All right, part 4. We got the battle of the river we just got done. Now we're going to do the battle of Walaja. Walaja seems like be this very strategic point across the on the Euphrates River. We got Khalid, we got Andarazahar. I think that's the best way I've ever pronounced it so far. I'm glad you're here with me, by the way. Let's watch. Let's see how they do in the Battle of Walaja.
Although Bahman's army noticed the movement of the Arabs, they were much.
And by the way, he's trying not to get Bahman to reinforce Andy.
Slower, so Khalid was able to reach Andazagar well before Bahman, sometime in the second half of May. According to the sources, Andazagar had enough room to maneuver and wait for Bahman along the river, but he was confident in his troops and kept his position. For almost a day, the two armies seemingly remained in their respective camps, within reach of each other, without attempting to start a battle. The Arabs were probably resting after their forced march, and the Sassanids were hoping that this wait meant they might be reinforced. However, this wait couldn't last, since Khalid knew that he had to score a decisive victory before the second Sassanid army arrived.
Urgency is everything right now. So they gotta sneak attack them, right?
So on the next day, both forces formed up in standard formation with a centre and two wings. The battlefield near Walaja was an even plain stretching between two low, flat ridges, which were about 1 kilometre away from each other. To the northeast was a barren desert, with the river Kasif running close to the eastern ridge. Both armies had the ridges behind them, meaning that an attack from the rear was not possible to begin with. The Sassanid leader was surprised to see the whole Muslim army was smaller than previously reported, and that it only consisted of footmen, which contradicted what he had heard about the crucial role Khalid's cavalry played in the previous battles.
So is he like suspecting something's up, or is he just like, wow, these guys are small?
Despite that, he was convinced that his position was impenetrable and decided to wait, as both armies knew that Bahman couldn't be too far away. Indeed, the Muslim commander ordered his entire army forward. Led by Khalid, who fought in the front rank, the army of the Caliphate charged into the enemy.
Okay.
For an hour or so, the two lines fought to a standstill, losing few warriors. But the Sassanids had the numbers, so their tired front line was replaced by the rear rank, which gave them the edge.
They're gonna get pushed
Despite
back.
Khalid's personal martial skill, his troops were getting tired, so Andazagar's counterattack started to push the Muslim troops back. Slowly but surely, the Sassanids advanced, while the Arabs were getting dangerously close to the ridge, which would have made any retreat impossible. At this point, Khalid gave a signal that changed the course of the battle. The cavalry that he sent into the desert during the previous night appeared on the eastern ridge behind the Sassanid army. This was Khalid's trademark move, as his mobile cavalry was able to hide in the deserts with ease. The advance of the Sassanid army away from its fortified position meant that its rear was undefended.
Oh my goodness. They're about to get ran through. Jeez.
The light Arab horsemen charged into the Sassanid lines, while Khalid's infantry lengthened their front to envelop the wings of Andazagar's army. Minutes later, the Battle of Walaja was over. The Sassanid commander was dead, and his army was completely destroyed, with only 5,000 survivors managing to retreat from the field. Khalid's casualties were around 3,000. As Khalid's troops were tired after the long march and the battle, his army wasn't able to pursue the Sassanid survivors. Those were mostly the Christian Arabs who were more mobile, and they managed to find shelter in nearby Elis. The messengers from this group went to other Christian Arab tribes to the northwest asking for help, and also informed the Shah in Tesfifan.
By the way, Shah, didn't work out. We're 0 for 3 against Khalid.
The tribes answered the call of their kin, while Yazdegerd sent messengers to Bahman to go towards Elis. It is not clear why, as Arab and Persian sources are conflicted, but according to the former, Bahman gave command over his army to another general called Jaban, who marched with the entire army to where the Christian Arabs were concentrating. The Persian sources claim that Bahman returned to Ctesiphon with his entire army. Meanwhile, Khalid,
we're getting close to the next battle of Muzayyah,
moved his troops towards the city, and sometime in May fought the allied Christian Arab and Sassanid army near Elis. The details of the battle are lost, but we know that the Muslims won. The sources are once again conflicted on the number of casualties, with the Arab sources stating that Khalid's force killed 70,000 enemies, mostly through the executions after the battle, while the Persian writers think that the army facing Khalid's 18,000 was comparable in size and managed to retreat towards Al-Hira after a minor defeat. In any case,
we're going to probably watch not only the Battle of Walaja, but we're going to watch the Battle of Muzayyah in the same video right here, guys.
In the last days of May, Khalid approached Al-Hira, which was the initial goal of his campaign. Again, the sources are inconclusive. We know that the local Sassanid garrison and their Arab allies mounted resistance for a few days, but eventually the sides decided to negotiate. As Khalid promised to spare the lives of the population in exchange for the payment of the jizya tax, the locals decided to surrender. The Arab commander spent the next few months building up a new administration in the region and collecting taxes.
Just as he done before.
At the same time, raiding parties were sent to central Iraq and towards the border of the Eastern Roman Empire.
They get busy. They are moving so quickly too. This is all within a few months.
And this raiding brought both loot and information on enemy movement. Some sources claim that the Caliphate gained a degree of control over central Iraq, but it seems that Khalid didn't have enough troops to keep such a wide region under his authority. Still, the Caliphate's raiding parties were not getting much resistance to the north and northeast, while his scouts informed him that the Sassanid garrisons to the northwest were still intact, with larger concentrations at Anbar and Ain al-Tamr. The first one was further away, and the direct route to it was through Ain al-Tamr, but attacking the fort of Anbar would have been more unexpected. So, in late June of 633, Khalid left half of his troops in Al-Hira and marched west towards Anbar with a 10,000 strong army. Anbar would become the first Arab attack across the Euphrates River. The details of the engagement that happened here are unclear, but it seems that Khalid's decision to attack Anbar surprised his opponents, and the leader of the garrison, Shirzad, was forced to surrender after the Arab archers showed their effectiveness. Then the Caliphate's raiding parties approached the town of Ain al-Tamr from the direction of Al-Hira.
And look, the Shah is just like on the other side of the Tigris. Like, this is not a good look for the Shah.
So when Khalid engaged the Sassanid troops, mostly made up of Christian Arabs from the west, in July, he was able to win with relative ease. The leader of the Christian Arabs was taken prisoner and then executed, and the city surrendered to the Muslims. Events of the next few months between July and September are shrouded in mystery, as some sources claim that Khalid was staying in Anbar and Ain al-Tamr, slowly setting up the administration of the newly acquired region, which seems uncharacteristically passive for him. Others claim that the last two remnants of the apostate activity of the Ridda Wars were to the south, so Khalid moved most of his non-garrisoned troops towards Dormat al-Jandal and helped his fellow Caliphate general, Ayad bin Ghanem, defeat the rebels in the region. This inactivity or absence gave some time to the Sassanids, and they started recruiting and concentrating 5 armies in the area between Muzayyah and Husayd. Keka bin Amr, who was left to command the garrison at Al-Hira, ordered the raiding parties in central Iraq and the garrisons of Anbar and Ain al-Tamr to take positions to the south of the Sassanid forces, delay them as much as possible, and not allow these 4 small armies to unite into one force. At the end of September, Khalid returned to Al-Hira alongside the troops he picked up around Dormat al-Jandal and ordered Kaka bin Amr and Abu Layla to lead portions of the garrison to Husayd and Kenafis respectively and take command, while his troops rested in the city. Apparently, small Muslim and Sassanid armies fought minor battles in October, and the Sassanids suffered minor defeats, which compelled them to retreat towards Muzayyah.
So basically, control is what's happening right now. There's kind of like a little bit of skirmishes happening here and there. They had to fight off the rebels in the desert. Now he's back. Khalid's back, and he brought a lot of more troops with him, as well as they're kind of like just taking it day by day. And now in Muzayyah, it feels like that's where things are about to go down towards that area.
Khalid now had an open route to the Sassanid capital, Ctesiphon, but the Sassanid army at Muzayyah and the concentrations of the Christian Arabs in the area between Sani and Zamil were still a threat, so the Caliphate commander decided against attacking Ctesiphon. The main Sassanid army at Muzayyah probably considered its position to be safe, since it would be difficult to attack them without going through Sani and Zamil. At the same time, Khalid knew that attacking the majority light cavalry Arab Christians could push them to the north to unite with the troops at Muzayyah, so Khalid devised a plan. His army
Khalid's been good with his plans.
Was already divided into 3 corps, and they moved directly against the Persians using the desert to avoid Sani and Zumail. This was technically very difficult, as all 3 corps had to not only bypass the enemy armies without being detected, but also arrive at the decided location simultaneously. It was risky, but the possible reward was also high. Everything worked as planned. Khalid's corps converged on the target at the same time, and during one of the nights in the first week of November, his 20,000 attacked the sleeping Sassanid army of...
Finally, a sneak attack. They've been so cordial lately, but now they're not going about the rule book now.
Comparable size. The latter was not expecting this attack, and the army of the Caliphate scored an easy victory, killing more than 10,000 Sassanid warriors. After that, defeating a smaller Christian Arab force seemed easy, but instead of confronting them head-on, Khalid repeated his 3-pronged maneuver to avoid losses. The Muslims suffered minimal losses, while the Christian Arabs lost more than half of their army. Apparently, a few recent Muslim converts were among the killed, and their families sent an appeal to the Caliph Abu Bakr to punish Khalid. This rejected appeal was sent through the future Caliph Umar, and will become important for our story down the line.
Okay.
Khalid's mobility and the inability of his opponents to consolidate their forces meant that the region between Muzayyah and Al-Hira was now under the control of the Caliphate.
That's insane. We're probably going to stop there, though. I don't want to see anything else yet. They basically just ran through all these civilizations off the Euphrates, all the way to Muzayyah, and then while they were sleeping, took care of them. A lot to go through, though. I mean, you got to cross the Euphrates once more, then eventually cross the Tigris, and then from there, you got to figure out, what you're going to do with the eastern part of this the Sassanids. So a lot to go through still. Appreciate you guys watching. Thank you guys so much. Leave a video recommendation down below. Peace out. Bye bye.